Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kristen, and these are my initial thoughts for my currently inked pens in July 2023. Before we move on, I wanted to just go ahead and let you know that my schedule is going to be a little erratic this summer. I've got the kids at home with me, so I'm just going to be recording when I can and possibly doing more voiceovers so that I can at least get the video in good lighting and get the audio with as little background noise as possible. Hopefully, this is going to work. This is my first ever experience. So, yeah, please bear with me. You're probably going to see quite a few more videos throughout the week as I attempt to get caught up on all of the videos that I want to publish for you all. But my hope is to provide content for you at least once a week. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's get started. As always, I'm going to be testing out these inks on different types of papers. So I'll have Rhodia, Iroful, Tomoe river paper, Midori paper, cream Tomoe river paper, and Yu-sari paper. So I'm going to get started writing on the Yu-sari paper. Okay, so first up, I've got the Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Magico. This has an extra fine nib. It's inked up with Teranishi Guitar Opera Rose. I just bought a bottle of this ink from a seller on Amazon, and I initially recorded myself swatching this ink, but the orange hue of this ink, I was expecting it to be more pink than it is, but the color had me so flustered that the commentary in the video just made little sense. So hopefully, now that I know what color it is, I'm going to have a better experience with this ink in the future. So next we've got the Twisby Eco White with a medium nib. This is inked up with one of my Diamine Inkvent colors. So this is Diamine Celebration. It is so pretty in that pen. It is so beautiful. The shimmer that's swirling around in the barrel, it's like so hypnotizing. I love how that color looks against the white and the silver and the black. It's just a pop of color in the midst of all that neutral. So I hope it writes just as well as other Diamine inks that I've used in the past. It looks fun and happy and punchy, but not like a solid orange. It's a shimmer ink, but you can barely see the shimmer because that shimmer, the color of the shimmer is so close to the color of the ink itself. It might remind me of Colorverse Iris Nebula, how it might be a great ink with or without the shimmer. That's what I'm hoping. It just looks so good in that pen. So next up, we've got the Lamy 2000 with its extra fine nib. This pen is inked up with Diamine Bliss. I am just so happy that I've had two successful ink experiences with the Lamy 2000, and so I wanted to ink it up again with something happier, a lighter ink. And so I figured this was the perfect opportunity to put in Diamine Bliss, a bright blue color that just grabs my attention. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Platinum 3776 Century with a soft fine nib. I have this inked up with the very, very wet Diamine Poinsettia. I received this ink sample from my pen friend Elizabeth. I am so looking forward to using this beautiful red ink. It is bold and warm without the extreme brightness or loudness that's common to many red inks, but it's super duper wet and it contains absolutely no sheen, which is perfect for this soft fine nib. I'm hoping that it's going to be even better than it was last month with Diamine Pick Me Up. Now moving on to my new pen, the Sailor Pro Gear Stellar Black Hole. This has a medium nib and I have it inked up with Wearing Gold The Great Gatsby. It is a lovely deep purple color. So it's like a Goldilocks shade of purple. So it's not too warm, not too cool, but it also has a golden sheen that I think matches so well with the cap of the pen. Originally, I was torn trying to figure out which ink to use, Wearing Gold Pride and Prejudice, Wearing Gold The Great Gatsby, or Pilot of Rushizuku Inaho. But by popular vote, I inked it up with Wearing Gold The Great Gatsby. All right, so this is my Pilot Vanishing Point with a fine nib. It's inked up with Van Diemen's Sea Turtle. So this Vanishing Point was one of my favorite pens when I initially dipped my toes into gold nibs, but I stopped using it when I had it permanently inked with a nice gray ink. So this year I've been trying to give it some color and trying to put it to work with whatever I can. So this month I've inked it up with a deep green. CNC turtle with a beautiful red sheen. So hopefully I'm going to have some fun with that this month. Next, we've got the Twisby Diamond 580 AL with a medium nib. It's inked up with Ferris Wheel Press, the Velvet Ballet. This is my second roulette option for the month, and it absolutely needed a demonstrator pen because of the shimmer. So I wanted to give my ecos a rest this month, and that's why I pulled out the Diamond 580 AL. I'm hoping that this deeper, softer shade of red with a fine shimmer is going to behave well in this pen. Hopefully, I'm trying to go in with no expectations, no chips on my shoulder with Ferris Wheel Press fountain pen inks. I'm hoping for the best. Next up is the Shown Design Pocket 6, the aluminum Pocket 6 with a perspective nib. This is inked up with Van Diemen's Royal Starfish. So it's a beautiful cool toned purple that matches, I think, perfectly with the purple on the actual pen. And it has a green sheen that also matches perfectly with the pen. Now, this perspective nib is a custom grind by Gina Salarino, Custom Nib Studio. And I got this at San Francisco Pen Show. So I don't use this pen as much as I would like to, and I want to be able to do it more and more often. So I'm trying my best to get it back in rotation because it is a beautiful nib, and I think it's going to be wonderful with such a deep, rich, probably super wet ink. All right, so this is no surprise. This is my Twisby Eco Smoke Rose Gold with a medium nib. It's still inked up with Colorverse Iris Nebula. It is so pretty. It is so well behaved. I love this gray purple color with the pearlescent shimmer. It's so good. It's not too wet and it's not too dry. It feels good and it looks good on the paper and it is not overwhelming to my senses. And it's perfect. This is the first shimmer ink that I have ever used, ever experienced that actually looks and feels perfect to me. All right, so now let's get on with the writing samples. So first up, we've got the Platinum 3776 Century with Diamine Poinsettia. My first impression of this ink was that it looked like fresh blood. I'm sorry. But I had no idea that this was the exact shade that I was looking for. This red is just so pretty. It is deep and it's not a cool tone color. I love warm reds, so you can see that I was happy about that one. So next up, the Twisby Diamond 580 AL with Ferris Wheel Press, the Velvet Ballet. This ink is super wet coming out of this Twisby medium nib, and I'm hopeful that it's going to tone down over time because it looked like the nib and the feed were oversaturated. And so I hope that it's going to regulate itself with a solid writing session. But right now, it just looks like a rich dark ink that's probably going to make the paper buckle because of the amount of ink that's being laid down on the paper. All right, so this is the Leonardo Momento Magico with Teranishi Guitar Opera Rose. This ink has absolutely no lubrication for the nib. I feel all of the texture in this extra fine nib, and if the tines were not aligned, I would have a very unpleasant experience with it. It kind of reminds me of a pencil with super hard lead. It's not unpleasant. All right, so now we've got the next oversaturated Twisby fountain pen. You should probably be able to see that that had a whole lot of ink that's just nestled up in there between the nib and the feed. It did not write as wet as the Diamond 580 did. It was really nice. No complaints, no issues, no problems. It worked just fine. Okay, so now we have the Pilot Vanishing Point with Van Diemen's Sea Turtle. This looks and feels a little bit dry at the moment. I don't think it's the ink's fault because I just inked it up the night before recording this video. So it was probably an issue with the way that I filled up the pen, but I probably wiped off a little bit too much when I cleaned off the nib. Next up is the Lamy 2000 with Diamine Bliss. This is such a bright, happy, cheerful color. And I just think about like being outside under the bright blue sky with this color. It needed like this lift in mood, honestly. So it performs well, looks lovely, looks happy. Next is the Twisby Eco Smoke Rose Gold with Colorverse Iris Nebula. Works perfectly, just as expected. All of the compliments that I've said so far in this video and in the previous videos, they still apply. The next one is the Shown Design fountain pen with Van Diemen's Royal Starfish. This is another Van Diemen's high sheening ink. And I was having some trouble trying to get this pen to write. But I think it's also the same issue that I encountered with the Pilot Vanishing Point. So I inked up the cartridge in this pen and then I dipped the nib, but I probably wiped off too much ink. So I just re-dipped the nib to get the nib and feed resaturated with some ink. And now it is working, writing beautifully. I'm going to keep my eye on this one too, as it could have been me, but it also could just be these sheening Van Diemen's inks. But yeah, so that is the perspective nib. The angle that I usually use to write will give me much more variation in the line width between the vertical lines and the horizontal lines. And lastly is the Sailor Pro Gear Stellar Black Hole with Wearingle The Great Gatsby. That nib is so smooth. It feels so good. I didn't realize how wonderful the Sailor medium nibs actually felt. And that purple looks so lovely in that pen. I did not see any shimmer whatsoever while writing that sample, but I'm so happy to have that purple in the Stellar Black Hole fountain pen. Here's a close-up of all the pen and ink pairings. So there's definitely a lot of shimmer in the Ferris Wheel Press, the Velvet Ballet, and Colorverse Iris Nebula. Diamine Celebration lays down some shimmer. It doesn't lay down as much shimmer as the other two inks, but it's also difficult to capture the shimmer that I did see on camera since that shimmer matches perfectly with the ink color. First up, we've got Rhodia paper. The inks look pretty good. I started on Rhodia paper because last month it seemed that all of my inks, my pen and ink pairings looked much thicker. They laid down much thicker lines on Iroful paper, and I was wondering if it was because of the fact that I had used those pens for the first time after freshly inking them on Iroful paper. So I purposefully used Iroful paper third after the Yu-sari paper and the Rhodia paper, just to see if there is a difference in the line widths based on the order. And it's still, every single pen looks like they are laying down much thicker lines on Iroful paper. I love how these pen combos feel on Iroful paper. I really want to go and find some good notebooks with this paper because it just feels nice. Like the ink just wants to be on the paper. All right, so next up is the Midori paper. Overall, the colors and the shimmers are pretty consistent from paper to paper. I did not notice any additional sheening on any of the papers. I was really looking forward to seeing the sheen, but I guess they're not super sheening inks. Van Diemen's Sea Turtle Green definitely looks green. Wearingle The Great Gatsby definitely looks purple. And now here is the Tomoe River paper. And that's how they all look side by side. I am going to keep my eye on the Velvet Ballet, Teranishi Guitar Opera Rose, and Diamine Celebration. I'm also going to keep my eye on these Van Diemen's inks. So it looks really good across all papers once I've finally saturated the nib and feed of each pen. As of right now, they are performing well. We'll see how they perform over the month of July. And before I forget, I wanted to remind you all that I'm going to be adding 1 to 3 inks, usually 2 inks, to this month's pen and ink lineup. And those 2 inks are going to be coming from the July Ink Flight subscription box. So please stay tuned and remember to watch that video if you want to see the other 2 inks that I will be adding to this month's rotation. Thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate you and all of the comments that you leave in my videos and all of the recommendations that you give me. They are so very helpful. And I make this content for you. So if you have any questions, if you have any recommendations, comments, or requests for future videos, leave them below and I will definitely respond. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye-bye.